kick off our conversation this week, what have you got on your mind or your agenda that's been in the news going on around internal comms, HR, leadership, culture? What's going on?
And all of the above. And this is very much what we want this podcast to be about, is a take of things that we're seeing that's impacting the world of comms and HR and employee experience and all of those things that we want to talk about and we
Mhm.
want all of you to talk about. The first, Jenny, is you recently wrote on LinkedIn reviewing 10 years of the state of the sector,
Mhm.
produced by Gallagher. And one, I want to go back to see, like, this is going to be a very American centric view, but let's just go back to 2015. Let's just see what
Okay.
this was like. So, Barack Obama was president of the United States.
Mhm.
Insert long pause for us all to reflect on how great that time was. Um, Uptown Funk was a song from Bruno Mars that was sort of in our
Mhm.
ears all the time. Hamilton had just shown up on there. And so part of what I'm curious about is even going back to 2015 in the comms world, it was Yammer debates were happening. And that's even probably for us, Jenny, dating ourselves for some of the newer comms pros out there who may not even, maybe you've heard of it,
What
you
is
don't know
that?
what it is. But at the time, back in the day, Yammer was pretty legendary. Shocker, back in 2015, people were complaining about email overload. We've made
Mm.
tremendous progress on that. But then now today, 10 years later, like hybrid work, AI, we're still talking about the effects of the pandemic because of how legendary that was on the industry, but still so many things unresolved out there
Yeah.
throughout the 10 years. And for those of us that have been in this industry that long. So what were some of your other takeaways or thoughts on what you reviewed over that 10-year period?
So it was interesting because there's loads of comments on that article about whether it's a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of approach. And for me, those 10 years have shown a real shift in the industry in terms of what the industry or the profession or the sector, whatever you want to call it, what it wants to be. And I think that has probably been the biggest shift is there's this very clear we want to be this sort of function. We want to be advising at a senior level. We want to be doing this, but the action isn't always there to follow that. And I think that's probably the thing that stood out for me in those 10 years is some of the things that are still an issue today, like manager enablement and leadership visibility. Those are still an issue in 10 years. That hasn't really changed at all. If anything, it's kind of gone backwards a bit. And these are things that for me are so key to the success of communication and culture, yet they have continued to be in that kind of too hard box. So it's like we know we need to do it and we still talk about it, but the action isn't following. It's the same with measurement. The reports are showing a shift in recognizing it has to link to business outcomes, but the action isn't always there. That said, there's been significant action in a lot of other places, but those are two things for me that I think come up so much in the work I do with clients that it's still a frustration. Like we should be able to be moving this forward now.
There's an interesting word that you mentioned that I don't know that you would even think it was interesting, but as soon as you said it, it was the word want. We communicators want to be this, but then you can't just cross your fingers and know that other people know those things. Like is this an element of communicators not advocating for themselves enough? Is this an element of communicators not stepping into the conversation and waiting for the conversation to happen? You get to work with a lot of organizations out there. Like what do you see? Why has it not been fast enough? Why has it been slow?
Yeah, and do you know what? It's something I come back to again and again because why are we still having this conversation? You and I say this all the time. Why are we still having these same conversations? I think there's a couple of things. The one thing for me, which I've been saying for probably the last 10 years, is we haven't done enough to educate business leaders about what communication can do inside an organization. I think we spend a lot of time talking to ourselves in conferences and events, and that's hugely helpful, right? There's a lot of benefit from doing that, but I don't think we've spent enough time trying to find everyone else in organizations to explain to them what communication can do. And we're just kind of expecting them to know what that is. The challenge with that is that every organization has different expectations and different experiences of communication, employee experience, all they're all different. Like you can go from one organization to another, and in one organization it's a strategic function advising the leadership team, but also organizing events and maybe also doing some of the content. And in another one, it's purely digital and you're not talking to the leadership team at all, but you're just about the content and the channels. It's so different everywhere, which makes it really hard to get that traction around what is it we're really here to do. But it's that education of others. I say to people a lot, you can't expect leaders and other people to understand how to communicate effectively because we have learned how to do this. We know how to do it with all the right channels and stuff, but we just kind of assume and then get frustrated when people don't. I don't know how much of a safe space to fail we create for our stakeholders to learn and understand. And I think that's the challenge. I think it's a combination of a bit of skills gaps in the comms world and a gap of understanding in the leadership world. And it's we're in a real mess at the moment, I think, with that. What do you think? You've spent a lot of time with different organizations. Is it any different over there than it is to the people I'm chatting to more over here?
I think there's a lot of similarity. I equate it more to, or here's where I would like to see communicators take this is look to partner with leaders on things, work to partner and establish that credibility with them. You know, we have said we are not going to talk about getting a seat at the table and all of that kind of stuff that we are all tired of hearing, but build a partnership with the leaders. Like be that advocate for them, be that influencer for them, be that voice for them, and build that partnership and build that trust and alignment with them. Then you will get what you want. You will, whether it's a budget, headcount, a tool, whatever it is, they're never going to say, Jenny, you're my trusted advisor. They're not going to say that. You're
Oh,
you're just going to become that.
yeah.
And you become that by building trust with them and doing work with them, not just waiting for them to come to you, but building that
Yeah.
partnership. The communicators that I see that are the most successful are the ones that have built partnerships with not just leaders throughout the organization.
Yeah.
That to me is the easiest path to success for communicators.
Yeah, it's the relationships, isn't it? I think this is the thing that is harder in a post-pandemic world for a lot of people where it's hybrid or remote. People are saying it's harder to build relationships. I spoke to one communications team where the internal comms manager was saying, I have a really difficult relationship with the chief of staff. And I said, well, how often are you in the London office with them? And they said, oh no, I'm home based. And my face, my face probably gave it away because I was like, I think this might be where the challenge is because I appreciate that you're home based, but if you want to fix this relationship, something's got to be different. And you probably want to fix that relationship more than the chief of staff. So you're going to have to do something different to get a different outcome, right? Rather than just saying, well, I work at home, so that's it. Like, I think, and this is the whole, if we want change, we've got to do something differently. You can't just keep doing the same thing and expecting something to happen because it's just never going to do that. But I do think this whole
Did
return
you
to
just
office stuff makes
paraphrase an Einstein quote? Is
I
that
think I did. I
I
think
think
I
you
did.
did. I think you did. All
I
right,
won't claim it as my
let's
own.
move along.